Resident Evil 4 will be remade by Capcom in 2023, returning to one of the games that had the most impact on contemporary culture. It continues a recent trend in Resident Evil to reimagine and reinvigorate the venerable franchise for a new generation with new gameplay mechanics, a compelling narrative, and eye-catching visuals. Even though Resident Evil 4 Remake won't be released for another 2 months, the Resident Evil franchise may have some surprises for fans in the months to come as well as after Resident Evil 4 Remake's release. The first Resident Evil 4 is widely regarded as a genre innovator in the third-person action shooter category. The game has been ported numerous times over the years, including in HD, on mobile platforms, and most recently in Resident Evil 4 VR. Given that many fans consider the original Resident Evil 4 to be the best in the series, Capcom is focusing a lot of its attention on the release of the remake in 2023. Resident Evil 4's remake is of right now a long-rumored project. The remake of Resident Evil 4 was just recently given the go-ahead. According to rumors, M2, the studio behind the Resident Evil 3 remake, was working on the game. Later, it was revealed that Capcom Division 1, one of the more experienced development teams that had previously been in charge of the series, took over development of the Resident Evil 4 remake. Even with the rumored change in development, the Resident Evil 4 remake appears to be on schedule for a release. Yoshiaki Hirabayashi, the game's producer, recently claimed that the project is in its final spurt and that there won't be any delays at the studio before its release on March 24th. The contentious island portion of the original script won't be cut, according to recent reports. Instead, for the 2023 remake, the contentious portion of the original Resident Evil 4 is being expanded. This is encouraging for the game's purists, who may want to keep a lot of the original content while hoping the remake enhances it in some ways. Release and build up for the remake of Resident Evil 4. Before the release of Resident Evil 4 Remake, at least one more trailer is very likely to be released. Since the June 2nd State of Play saw the announcement of both Street Fighter 6 and the remake of Resident Evil 4, Capcom has been a major highlight for Sony during recent State of Plays. The following State of Play will probably contain more information, but Capcom may also hold another showcase to highlight the progress of its numerous projects. A demo for the Resident Evil 4 remake is another possibility, but at this point, it is only a rumor. Resident Evil has previously released demos prior to the release of its games, including demos for Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, Resident Evil 3 Remake, and Resident Evil Village. However, Capcom has not yet made any mention of a demo for the Resident Evil 4 remake. There is a chance that Resident Evil 4 Remake will receive DLC down the road, but it will probably be purely cosmetic. The previous Resident Evil remakes did not get any significant story-related downloadable content, whereas Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, and Resident Evil Village did, including the most recent Resident Evil Village, Shadow of Rose. Many people draw the conclusion that the remake of Resident Evil 4 will probably be identical as a result. VR and Resident Evil Village and the Resident Evil 4 remake will both support PSVR 2's virtual reality capabilities. Uncertainty exists regarding whether the Resident Evil 4 remake will support VR fully or only partially, with some areas only being accessible in VR. Also unknown is whether VR support will be offered when the game launches. Ahead of the release of the game, more information will probably be released. Resident Evil Village will receive a VR update on February 22nd, which is also the day PSVR 2 launches, which is good news. Owners of Resident Evil Village are entitled to a free VR mode that allows them to control Ethan's hands independently and dual-wield weapons. What comes next in Resident Evil Village? Resident Evil Village received a brand new edition in October 2022 called Resident Evil Village Gold Edition, probably marking the end of the game's support outside of VR mode. Given that the emphasis right now is on the Resident Evil 4 remake, it's probable that there are no additional planned Resident Evil Village story expansions. However, since Capcom has released content even after a definitive edition was released, as was the case with Street Fighter V, this doesn't necessarily rule out the possibility. Even so, it's still unlikely that there will be any new significant content. After Resident Evil Village and the Resident Evil 4 remake, it is unclear where the Resident Evil franchise will go. Even though it's pure speculation based on previous marketing trends for the series, if there are any hints about what Resident Evil has in store, they may be revealed close to the end of the year, but more likely early next year. Revisions to other Resident Evil content. Resident Evil Re-verse, Capcom's other online multiplayer game, has received support in recent months in addition to the Resident Evil 4 remake. Since the game's October release, Capcom has added fresh characters and settings. The game's lackluster critical reception makes it unclear how long support will last. In other Resident Evil news, there won't be a second season of the live-action Netflix TV series with the same name. No information has been released regarding Resident Evil, Infinite Darkness, an animated series on Netflix, or whether a second season will be added. Additionally, no official word has been made regarding a Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City sequel. It wouldn't be at all surprising if either of these projects were approved for a sequel or if something entirely new were to be released later this year. Though, given the propensity for Resident Evil adaptations to be made despite poor box office performance and unfavorable reviews, for PC, PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series X, Resident Evil 4 Remake will be available on March 24, 2023. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe and support my channel.